This is my red amaranth, and it is about shoulder height on me right now, at least chest height, you can see. And I have about 4 of them planted. The stalks are getting huge on these things, and I think they're getting ready to flower, so I'm looking forward to it. I've never grown this before. My yellow hot Hungarian wax peppers are doing just fantastic this year. Look at these things. They're just loaded with peppers. I'm excited. These are my tiny Tim tomatoes here. First time growing this variety. They only get about that size, but it stays nice, little compact, little bush-sized plant here. But it looks like it's going to just be loaded with little tomatoes. As you can see, it's just covered in flowers here. These are my 2 Aji Charapita pepper plants that I grew in 5-gallon containers here. These things are starting to load up with flowers too, and they're even getting a lot of the peppers on them here yet, though they haven't started to ripen up. But I think these things are just going to be loaded with peppers in a few days here. My pole beans. These are the Kentucky Wonder variety. They've already maxed out on the height of my trellis here, and they're starting to get ready to produce some beans here, but I have a little bit of a problem with the Japanese beetles right now. And next to these here are my Oriental yard-long beans, and they're finally starting to make their way up the trellis too. And they're even getting a few of the small beans on them here. You can see this is going to be a bean here. This will eventually turn into a 3-foot long bean if you let it get that big. They're best when they're picked about 18 inches though. So these are my tomato plants here. I have this trellis built for them. I have just a 6-inch mesh netting on there, and I have 12 tomato plants growing on here. I have 5 different varieties of tomatoes on the front here. These are Palca tomatoes. They grow kind of like a pepper shaped fruit, a little long kind of pointy fruit. Behind that here we have the Federals, which you look at these things and they just look like they're ready to die always, and I don't know why. They've looked like that since seedlings, but they continue to grow. They're the second tallest tomato plants I got. They're producing tomatoes here, and so I'm not sure why they look like that, but anybody with experience growing Federals, be sure and pipe in. Next I have a Amish paste tomato plant here, which is also starting to flower and get tomatoes growing. The Castelluto Genovese is just getting loaded up with some tomatoes too up under here. A little difficult to see, and on the far side I have Tommy Toe tomatoes, and I'll make my way over there and give you a look at those tomatoes. But that is basically an indeterminate cherry type tomato. My onions, these are my Utah sweet Spanish onion. I picked some of them out of there today to make room for some others to grow, but they're pretty good size, probably at least 3 inches across, most of them. Some of them a little bit bigger than that, but those I started from seed pre-season, and I had much better results than I did last year when I planted them from sets. There's a nice big one right there. You can see all these down here. They're all doing great. My red onions in the front, not so hot this year. Maybe they're not getting enough light, I'm not sure, but they're not forming very big bulbs, and I do have a few American flag leeks up here that seem to be doing okay. These are my sweet potatoes. I'm hoping for another major harvest like I got last year. If you didn't see my video on that, check it out on YouTube. Huge sweet potato harvest 2019 is the title of the video. These are my shallots here. These seem to be doing okay as well. Next to that I got my chives. Those things need to be thinned out. They're just getting out of control there. This is my Thai pepper plant here, and it is getting loaded with peppers as well. This is grown in about a 2 to 3 gallon container. really starting to branch out on the side, but I mean already it's just got loads of peppers on the top. These are my Alma Paprika peppers here, and these are just what they sound like. You grind them up into paprika after you dry them out, and they will turn from this creamy color to a nice bright red when they're mature. And you can see these are getting quite a few peppers growing on them as well here, so I'm pleased about that. Here's another two of my favorite peppers here. These are the Aji Limos. I got these growing in containers. Very prolific pepper plant. They grow these small. They don't really get too much bigger than this, but they'll turn a very bright yellow. Pepper has like a bit of a citrusy taste to it. Very flavorful. Good for seasoning dishes. Now this pepper plant here, this is a Peperoncini pepper. It's an orange Peperoncini. It's supposed to be a little hotter than the yellows. This thing's got quite a bit of peppers hanging off of it here too. Waiting for some of them to mature. Oh, firefly. And this pepper plant here is a big Thai hybrid. This one is a burpee seed that I planted here, and it grows these fairly good sized peppers on it. It's got quite a bit of them growing on it already here. They'll turn red eventually, obviously, and it's Thai flavor, but not supposed to be very hot. This here is my bird's eye pepper plant. This is another one just growing in a small container, maybe a 2 to 3 gallon container, and I've grown these before, and this pepper plant will just get so loaded with peppers you'll just get sick of picking them, and I kind of just at one point end up waiting till the end of the season. I just cut it down because I mostly use these dried out in Asian dishes that I cook and stuff like that. These are my potato plants. These are a purple potato here, and the foliage is starting to die back. They've already flowered, and I'm looking forward to getting some taters out of these things. I'm not sure how much longer they got before I'll be able to dump these bags out. These are those grow bags, which I'm really not a huge fan of because they dry out so quick, but they seem to be doing okay for my potatoes. I have 5 gallon bags of these growing, so it won't be long, and we'll see what I get off of the potatoes here. In this section of my raised bed, I have my basil. I have a Thai basil here on the left, and then the other 5 are Genovese basil plants, and I've already done a lot of harvesting off of those. Over here I have a couple more containers of pepper plants on my patio that I'm growing here. The first one I have is a red habanero. It's starting to get the pods on it here. These are some self-watering, like double 5 gallon buckets that I made here. They seem to be working quite well. The intention is to give them an even amount of watering. In the 5 gallon self-watering, I also have an Aji Limo here, and it's doing well. I don't think it's doing as well as the other ones in the 5 gallon container, even though they were all the same size when I planted them. Here is another red habanero, and this one is strictly hydroponic. This is a little test I'm doing outside. Wanted to see how a hydroponic plant would grow outside. You do have to kind of combat the rain here, but you can see this thing's got quite the extensive root system on it here. But I mean, it's growing great. It's getting the pods on it already. It's looking good, nice and green. And here is one more Aji Charapita that I have, and this one's, again, look at all the flowers on this thing. I mean, it's just going to be loaded with little peppers. I mean, you can see they're already growing. Some are growing on there already, but they just haven't started to ripen up yet. This is my artichoke plant here. This thing just looks prehistoric. I don't know if I'm actually going to get any artichokes off of it this year, but the intention was I put it in the container because I want to overwinter it and see if it survives in the garage. But this year not optimistic on getting any artichokes off it, but it still looks cool in the meanwhile. But that's most of my stuff there. I do have a few other pepper plants and stuff like that, but that's a quick tour of my garden.